Welcome to the second episode of Porter's Mailbag. I'm David Haw from 670 The Score, co-host of the Mully and Haw Show every morning, 5 to 9 in Chicago. And I'm glad to be asked to moderate this fun panel, looking back at the 2018 Final Four team, and delighted to be joined by a group of young men and some not so young anymore, guys who made history at Loyola. It's fun to get these guys all together. I see their faces pop up on Zoom, and it reminds me of some of the most fun team that I can remember covering. It was a great run in March and April of 2018 in that entire season. So we are going to talk to them today. Start out with Coach Porter Moser is there, and we're going to ask Porter some questions. Also, former Ramblers and alumni. We have, I don't think he's with us yet, but he will be checking in soon, Dante Ingram. He'll be on the Zoom call. We have Ben Richardson, who's in Kansas City. You have Clayton Custer, I think, with the red cap going there. That's not a Cardinals hat. I don't think so. I think he said it was from Olympia Fields.
Better not be.
So Clayton Custer, Marcus Towns, Dre Jackson, Carson Shanks, Nick Donardi, and I think that is it for now. We may get some surprises along the way. And what we'll do is we're going to talk about the run to the Final Four and talk about that fascinating weekend and memorable weekend in San Antonio and every step along the way. We'd like to welcome all the season ticket holders, donors, men's basketball alumni, friends of the program. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is for you. We've got a lot of ground to cover. So guys, we can start. And since Marcus, who is the furthest away, he's over in Spain right now. So we should start with him, and then we'll just go down the road. But I think a good place to start is people want to hear you. How has your life been affected most by what you accomplished in the 2018 season and the Final Four? And how often does it come up in your current walk of life?
Well, definitely ever since the Final Four, I'd say not just me, but everybody's life has changed. It was something that I personally would never forget in my entire lifetime, and something that I would tell my kids about and have them watch to see me and our team play and have such fun times together. And definitely it changed my future for sure in terms of basketball wise. And obviously I got to connect with a lot of alumni at Loyola and have some good network connections maybe for after my basketball career, because basketball doesn't last forever. So definitely in terms of that, and definitely just the whole culture that coach taught us and embraced in us has definitely made me see life in a different way for sure. And definitely, like, just when people always talk about it and they talk about me, they always bring up the Final Four, whether it's introducing me to a new team or introducing me to new people. Oh, he was a player in the Final Four playing for Loyola Chicago. It's Sister Jean and everything. So like it comes up pretty much all the time.
Marcus, before we get on to the next guy, where are you and where are you in the stage of your basketball career?
I just finished my rookie season in the Spanish ACB league, which is the first league in Spain, and it's probably I think it is the second best league in all of Europe. The first league obviously is the Euro League, and next will come the Spanish ACB league. So it's a really, really, really good league. And yeah, I just finished my rookie season, and it got cut short due to the COVID-19, unfortunately. But hopefully next year will be better, and we will actually finish the season.
How about Ben?
Yeah, I feel the same way as Marcus on a lot that he spoke on, but I can relate. I can relate to, even in Europe, sometimes over the intercom, like before the game, like at our home game, my first home game in Czech Republic, I remember when they introduced me, I had no idea what they're saying, but I heard them say Final Four somewhere in there. So even, in Europe, it's something that, you get introduced to new people. It's kind of it's kind of something that you're going to be characterized by for the rest of your life, especially athletically. People are gonna say that's something that he did, and it's always going to be stuck to you. So it's big time in that regard, and I'm proud of that. And sometimes it can feel like it's some added pressure, but at the same time, I think for me, and Coach would always say this to us, like, once you get a taste of like success, you kind of want it more and more. And for me, in my life, I try to take the lessons I learned and everything that we did in making it to the Final Four and apply that to the rest of my career. And I try to be greedy, as Coach would say, for success. And I think you don't want to settle after having success like that. So it's been like something that I've wanted to use as momentum to push me to continue to be successful in whatever I do. So yeah, it's a unique thing, and I try to use it to propel me forward. And there's no question that it has opened an incredible amount of doors for me. Like Marcus said, not just in basketball, but outside of that. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for each one of these guys here for everything they sacrificed to get us to that point. And I'm grateful for my coaching staff too. And so, like Coach always said, it's, we have this bond now forever, and it is an accumulation of tons of hard work and all that grind. It makes it way more special. So,
how about you, Clayton?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo everything they just said. They pretty much covered a lot of it. But yeah, first off, hi Dante. Welcome to the
Dante, it's good to see you, man.
driving down Lakeshore.
Guys,
Driving down Lakeshore right now.
these guys on the panel would be remiss if I didn't say the two words to Dante. Take off.
Somebody go get him.
You're on mute, Dante.
Yeah, you're muted. Being muted.
Hey, man, look at the car in front of you. Don't worry about mute.
Oh, here we go. My fault, y'all. My fault.
There we go.
I'm driving in Europe, and you're not behind the wheel on the left side.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think just the doors that have opened. Obviously, you go anywhere in Chicago, and like Marcus said, anytime you're getting introduced to somebody or you're meeting somebody for the first time, this is Clayton Custer. He was on the team that went to the Final Four. He was on the Loyola Chicago, and Sister Jean's always getting brought up. But yeah, and just the bond. I think we would have all had a very strong bond even if we wouldn't have made it to the Final Four. But making it to the Final Four is just gonna strengthen it even more. I mean, we're gonna have reunions. We're gonna have a couple months ago, Coach put together a group FaceTime with a few of us, and it's good. I mean, it's good to talk to everybody, and yeah, I think it's changed my life for the better, obviously, and the doors opening up post basketball and the connections that we all have from that is just icing on the cake. So,
Clayton, when they ask if you played on the Final Four team, do they believe you when you say yes? Still looking pretty young.
You had to bring that story back up. No, usually they do, but there's still sometimes. I've battled with that my whole life. So,
how about you, Dre?
Yeah, I say I've added some extra fame, like just coming back home, everybody saying like they watched the game, they proud of me and all that. And then when I go off to Europe, you find out how many people were tuned in, because people see me, they come up to me, or they hear from like the announcers, like they said, and then you just find out that everybody's watching and they rooted for us actually. So when I was in Ukraine, actually that year that we went to the Final Four, a group of kids had went to like a Loyola camp, I believe. So when I was there playing in Ukraine, they had their shirts on the sideline. So that was an amazing feeling.
Worldwide.
But yeah, just say it again.
Worldwide.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we famous. We famous.
How about you, Carson?
Well, I can say that picture that Clay got left out of, the person was very lucky to get someone that scored 6 points against Lewis College in it. That would be myself. So I'm glad I could provide that for him. But, staying in the game of basketball, I'm coaching now at the Division II level, University of Minnesota Duluth. There's not a day that goes by that I don't talk to someone that, just knows about our team. And it's kind of a universal story in the basketball world right now. And it's, it's super cool to be associated with not only, that team, but this program as a whole. And it doesn't help in the recruiting process when I get to talk about Sister Jean.
Dante, you settled in there? What do you remember most? Welcome to the Zoom program for the Loyola community and the family. And we were talking we began how the experience in 2018 changed your life and how often it comes up now.
Man, it's crazy. Like a lot of the guys were saying, you can't, every time I really go somewhere and somebody has a conversation, I don't remember the last time it didn't come up. You know what I'm saying? So to do what we did and, kind of put the city and the team like back on the map, you know what I'm saying? And do it to that level, to that extreme was something crazy. Like Clay said, we would have felt like we all had a tight bond regardless of how far we went, but to do something that special together, not too many people get that opportunity. So it's something that we'll never forget. I'll be hyped for the reunion whenever we get that together. We need to get that together. But yeah, man, that was a life-changing experience that I'm very grateful for. So.
And where are you in the stage of your career right now?
I just played my second year this past season in the G League. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
You in shape?
Man, I ain't in basketball shape. I've been trying to go, I'm just now able to get back in the gym, back in my hometown. But yeah, it's been tough trying to find gyms to get into.
Yeah, I was working out. Dante came down to KC like a week ago, and he was not in shape.
Yeah, I was not in shape. That's my first time.
Am I hearing that Ben gave you buckets?
Oh hell no! He
didn't want these ones. He didn't want the ones.
That's my.
You're muted.
Before we get to Coach Nick, how would you answer that question?
Man, just like all the guys have said, it's really changed your life. You got a great bond with these guys. I really haven't talked with Dre or Dante or Mark much. I mean, I've seen Clay and Ben a little bit, haven't seen Fudge in a long time, but just kind of the bond that you got. It's just, it's never going to end, and it's always going to be strong with these guys. As being the only guy who hasn't really played basketball after the Final Four, it's been interesting because I went right into medicine, and I didn't really realize that it's just so worldwide. But unfortunately, I got a couple of rivalries with some of the doctors I work with. I got one guy who we always talk crap to each other about Tennessee. Luckily, I can have that one over him. But a couple of doctors went to Michigan that I work with, so that's it's still a salty wound for me when I come into the operating room and stuff with them. But it's awesome because you get to have that relationship like right off the bat with anyone who knows sports or really even just was around any type of news media outlet during that time. We have that connection or something to talk about. So it's automatic like door opener, and it's really opened a lot of connections and stuff.
Porter, I thought it was cool as you got onto this Zoom meeting and all the players came on one after another. The relationship and the rapport you still have with these guys kind of just reminded me and anybody, I'm not in those locker rooms at the time, and just looking at it from afar, just how special that connection was and how unique that chemistry of that year's team really, really remains. And you'll always have that.
No doubt. One thing we talk about, and these guys know it when we recruited them. So when you come play for Loyola, we're not looking for a 4-year commitment. We're looking for a lifelong relationship. And when you look at what's, the friendships that they have amongst each other and the coaches and where it's going, it's something that will last a lifetime. And one of them said that even if we didn't go to the Final Four, they felt that way. And, it's for me, it's how it's changed me. It's just validated so much about, what you can do when you accumulate great people together. We have such a mantra and a blueprint for recruiting, like high character guys and winners. And, great people win championships. And we just really believe that the group that we had was a group of high character guys and winners. And these guys don't know this, and how much, it also validates it to sell to the next generation of Loyola players. All these guys we talk about at length, and show recruits about because people didn't think we could do it. People didn't think we could do it. And, we were 7 minutes away from playing Monday night. And one of the things we talk about is it validates that we can play Monday night, and we will. And that's something that, these guys, here's a great little quick story. And these guys should really see this video about winning DNA. And Reggie Miller talked about that in The Last Dance, winning DNA. And we set out, we wanted to recruit a lot of guys that won. There's a clip of the free throw with 8.3 seconds or whatever it was against Miami. And the shot goes up, and you see Ben Richardson's blocking out the shooter. Dante's blocking out one of the guys. Krutwig's going to the middle of the rim for the rebound. Marcus is right there, and Clay's right there. And you look at that screen in terms of winning DNA, and you say, Ben's got 2 state championships, Clay's got 2, Dante's got 2, Marcus has got 3, Krutwig won 30 games his senior year. And we talk about this exact same thing. And when you rewind it, and I know people are going to go back and look at it, at that point, we have a thing we always talk about: rebound down, rebound down. And winning DNA, Ben was blocking out the shooter, shot goes up, and it kind of goes to the left, and Ben goes about 15 feet down to rebound the ball. And then we push pause. We show recruits this, and then we push pause at 8.3. And I say, look at that rebound down. Then you look at Dante, and people see Dante's shot. Go rewind it where Dante is at 8.3. He is laying on the back with his feet pointed towards the ceiling. And from that point on, we push play again. And Ben quickly outlet it to Marcus. Marcus completely went down the court. Dante got up, get it, and then the rest is history. But there's a lot goes into winning DNA. And for me, that just, these guys are special guys. And to have that blueprint to say you want to go through this journey with high character guys, and where you want to be friendship for life, and that are talented, and that have that winning DNA. And the one thing that these guys talked about, that they changed their life, they'll go around Chicago and different places, and they say, oh, it's great you're on the Final Four team. I get, when are you going to do it again? That's the one difference.
Well, when are you? What's taking this so long?
That's
If
exactly.
I might add, my favorite part of that clip that you're describing is the audio. The second the ball goes up, you can hear Cam Crowley go, "Get it, Dante!" It's clear as day. You can hear it because he's boxing out. He knows Dante's going to be able to go elevate to go get it. But that's my favorite part of that clip is you can go back and you can hear Crutwig's voice distinctly.
I gotta rewind that and look for that.
Yeah.
I'm more talking about
I
other
hear
stuff.
it every time. It's like,
Bro,
get it, Dante!
it's so distinct. Yeah, it's so distinct. I done did a 1,000 interviews, and they always ask about that shot, and I always tell them like, without Ben, because that ball rolled around the rim for a while, and I jumped early.
Yeah.
Like, without Ben, it wouldn't have been no shot without that
100%.
rebound down. I tell people that all the time.
100%.
And Porter, you talk about the chemistry that you felt, and as somebody who covered that group just in the tournament, it was always the character of your team that I think was the one thing that when you look back, that's what and you can see it and hear it in their voices here tonight. That was evident then. And so to the next point, to the next question, right now it's fun to look back, and we're going to continue to do that. But we're at a time that's a really critical point here in American history. Anybody that's lived in the last 2 weeks understands what I mean by that. And in the context of Loyola basketball, 1963, that team was such an important part of the civil rights movement and made so much history. And I think probably, if I remember correctly, you guys had a bond with that group just because of the history that they made. And I just wanted to go through each person to kind of get your sense of number one, kind of the, when you left Loyola with a sort of a social conscience that you might be listening to louder or more so than ever now, and how you're putting the past couple weeks into your own personal context. And I know, whether you guys went to school in the city of Chicago, and what's happened in the city of Chicago. And Dante, we'll start with you, because you grew up here. You know what it's like. You know what that means here in the city, and what, when you see these images and when you see what's happened and some of the healing, maybe, hopefully, that has begun, what's going through your mind the last 2 weeks, and how powerful of a platform that you potentially could have, and that that you already have been on as a Loyola basketball player?
To see what's been going on, it's like when you put it into perspective, it's like I see some people say, like, man, this is like the worst that it's been, in history. And when you think about it, it's not that it's gotten worse. It's just now starting to be exposed more. You know what I'm saying? Like, you start to see it more. But like, this has been going on for since the beginning, since way back. But just to see everything that's going on, you have a lot of people that are obviously angry. Obviously, this very frustrated when everything. So you got people like back where I stay. It's not even really safe to be there right now. I stay over south. You got people that are protesting, but it turns to riot. It turns to looting. I drive down the street, like every building is pretty much burned down. The Walmarts, the gas stations, and they're stealing everything out of there. So it's just crazy to kind of see that and like realize that, like, not much has really changed, like, since back then. Like, it's something that's been that, our grandparents and so on and so forth, just down the line. It's been such a long timeline of a struggle going on. And I think that a lot of people are kind of blind to it, or have been. And I think that change needs to start, and for people to just acknowledge it, I think, and for our next generation to be able to show them the right way, let people know how important voting is. You know what I'm saying? I think the protests are fine and everything, but I think it comes down to voting and you know what I'm saying, trying to help in other ways besides people acting out in anger and, you know what I'm saying, and tearing our own communities down. So it's been crazy to see, but for me, you know what I'm saying, I want to be able to have a voice and be a help any way I can, whether that's donating, bringing people more awareness to things, and just being consistent in that. You know what I'm saying? I don't think this is something that we can just go a month, talking about, and it just, you know what I'm saying, it just rolls over. I think it's something that needs to be a continuous thing, and we stay consistent with it. So.
Well said. Carson, you're up in Minnesota, not that far from the center of, where this all started in Minneapolis. How would you describe your perspective on this?
Like you said, I'm actually down about 30 minutes south of the Twin Cities right now with my parents. So obviously I've been kind of at the hub of it. Have seen a lot of, kind of obviously the tragedy of everything that's happened and the what's happened after it. But I will say this, in terms of speaking to the 1963 team, I felt really privileged to, we had a Zoom call with our team the other day. So speaking to our young guys, and I had the privilege to talk about the 63 team to our players, and talk about how amazing those men are, and how amazing they were, and really speak about how, this has been going on for a really long time. Granted, I'm not in the position that Dante's in. I'm a white guy from Minnesota, but at the same time, the fact that I've been able to have these experiences with people that have honestly changed the landscape of sport and culture has been amazing. So the fact that I was able to share that story with our guys was a really cool experience for me, for sure.
Right?
Said Dre. Oh yeah, I agree 100% with what Dante said. And to piggyback on the 63 team, I'd say they didn't go in there and play themselves like they played the other team, the white players. So the white players had took a stand to allow them to play that game. So I feel like that's what needs to kind of happen right now. Like we need everybody. We need the people who say they are with us, but we need like their actions to join us, and like we both as a whole community try to get some changes done.
Marcus, you have a different perspective. You're over in Spain, and from afar, how has it been to watch what's going on here in America?
I say it's tough. It's tough. It's sad to see that there's still some type of stuff going on in it, like with all the racial stuff, and it's just hard to see because when you think about it, going back like with the 1963 team is when they broke the racial barrier 50 plus years ago, and this helped change the game of basketball, helped change the game of sports, it helped change just the way people think of Black people and white people in the same place, and being able to get jobs and receive the same type of compensation as everybody else, and it's just hard to see that even after this, and even after how we changed ways all the way up until these years now, that people still feel that they're still superior to another race, which is kind of sad to see. And you figure that we be past that in this 2020 century, and it's just, I don't know, it's just sad to see. And then I feel like people are not protesting in the right way with all these riots and looting. It's just not the way to act in this type of situation. You're just shifting away from the actual problem of what's going on in this world. And what's going on in this world is that we need change. We need to stand up for everybody and everybody's rights in this world. And the first thing that we need to do is come together as one and help vote and make change in this world. And I feel like we need to do something else with the police. And I feel like people should, when you count down to all these Black people, you have George Floyd, you have Eric Gardner, you have Trayvon Martin, you have all these stories of Black people or Black kids or parents getting killed for no reason, and it's just really sad to see. And I just feel like we need help, and we need change. We need everybody to come together, and Black, white, Asian, Indian, and you name it, it doesn't matter. We're all one community, and we just need to come together as one.
Well put. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of go off of what these guys have said, I kind of look at it in kind of a way that coach taught us on how to play basketball. If we weren't an entire team, an entire, community, if you're looking at this type of problem, we can't get through it one person at a time. It's got to be a community. And so, I look back and I think, how many times did maybe my communication from the bench save someone from getting a back screen or something like that? It's kind of the same type of thing in this thing. Like I will never understand in my position exactly what some of these guys go through. But I can be a teammate and I can communicate and I can talk to and try and end it in my own way and be progressive and work as a community to end some of these, systematic inequalities that are going on around the country. And it kind of just looks back in like the 1963 team where, like Dre said, it didn't just take the Loyola guys, it took Mississippi State to come and, change that boundary and come together, as in sport and change things as a community, as a team. That's kind of the way I kind of see it.
Ben, you're in Kansas City. How you viewed the events there and how they've impacted you?
Yeah, we've had a bit of protesting and even some rioting and looting going on. It hasn't really affected my community out in Overland Park as much as it has in the plaza and downtown in those areas. But to me, the way I think about this is, one, I want to talk about Les Hunter because we lost him this year, and I know he'll be, severely missed, especially within the program. I was extremely grateful to be able to be around him specifically and so many of those other guys. And, you know, hearing them, seeing the way that they, you know, cared about the program still and cared about the university and, you know, hearing stories from those guys. You know, I grew up in Kansas, and going to Loyola, the whole experience, you know, college it's formative time in your life, but, you know, going to a school in Chicago and getting to be around guys like Les Hunter, the 63 team, and getting to learn from them and hear those firsthand stories of what they went through. It was so inspiring to me, and you know, it changed the way I looked at the world. And I think that so much of what we deal with now in our country, you know, comes from ignorance. You know, I think racism is ignorance, and being able to, you know, hear those stories and hear about what they dealt with. You know, they played basketball. They were college basketball players, but, you know, they didn't know if they were going to make it out of their hotel because they had people making violent threats at them. And, you know, the racism they faced was blatant. And, you know, here today, we look and we can see that we still deal with some of that stuff. You know, it's not just in the past. It's not the civil rights movement, and now here we are and perfect. You know, everything is great. I think today the most American thing we can do is continue to try and improve. I think that's who we are as a country. We need to come together. We're a country full of people from all different backgrounds, and I think we can learn from, you know, all the steps that they took and all the things they faced, you know, back in the civil rights movement, playing the game of change. All that should inspire us to continue to keep improving, and we can always improve. We can always get to a better place. And I'm just thankful that, you know, I think the social work and the social justice is a Loyola identity. You know, I don't think I would have the same scope and the same lens I would see this all if I didn't get to, you know, be around those guys, that team, and go to Loyola. And I'm very grateful for that.
Clayton?
Yeah, I mean, piggyback off what everybody said so far, but I really liked what Dre said. I think what happened with the 1963 team when they played Mississippi State, I think that's a great symbol for what has to happen now. Mississippi State went out of their way to play that game, and that 1963 team helped break the color barrier for sports. And I think that that's what we need in the world right now. We need people of all colors and races to come together and try to change the way things are right now. I feel lucky to have met the 1963 team. The relationship we had with them was amazing. Like Ben said, the firsthand stories that we heard were amazing. I mean, those guys won the national championship, but they weren't just playing basketball. They were playing against the other team, but they were playing against the entire crowd and everybody else in the world. So what they did was truly amazing. But I mean, we have a long ways to go, and with the social injustice and with the police brutality and all this, I mean, I will never know what it feels like to be Dante, to be Dre, to be Marcus. But I do believe that all of us on here were raised the right way, and we've always kind of thought the right way when it comes to these things. And I just honestly can't believe it when I see some of this stuff that I see on social media, and it just seems ridiculous to me. And I can't believe that that's the way that people think. And I hope that we can come together, and I think it's going to be hard to change the minds of some of the older generation, but all I can hope is that we can use. We don't have huge platforms, but whatever type of platform that we have to try to promote the change that we can with the people that follow us and who have followed our journey, and hopefully some of the younger people and the people our age will follow our lead.
Porter, you've got to be very proud to hear all these guys talk with such a sense of social responsibility. Give you the last word on this before we get back to some basketball.
Well, that's what I would say to all the people listening is how proud you are of who they are as young men and that generation. And they should be proud. Their parents should be proud. And that generation that you're looking at on the screen has to be better than our generations. And they have to be better for their kids' generation. And this is the time. This is the time where change has to happen. Well before I met the '63 team when I got here in 2011, and all these teams every year I bring Jerry in. Jerry spoke to these guys before the Final Four run, well before that, because social justice has been a big part of Loyola University. It's been a part of our team, and they heard the injustices that went on with that '63 team. And what was going on was an education process. And that's what needs to continue to go on at a higher level education process throughout the whole world. And what happens is in sports, you grow up with a lens of you're playing with diversity. You learn about the people you play with, who they are, not the color skin, who they are, and what they stand for, and the kind of people they are. And the world needs to look through the lens of sports sometimes. With that. And we need to educate those people. We need to stand up. People say, well, I don't know what to say. You hear that in past generations. Say, I care. Say, I have empathy. Say, I see racism, that there's got to be change. And now is the time for everyone not to be neutral, not to stand on the sidelines, to have a voice, to have a platform. Because I look at firsthand, when you hear the '63 team talk about what they went through, and talk to these guys about what they went through. And then you see in 2020 what happened with George Floyd. And you want to cry. You want to say, for our kids' generation, for these guys' generation, we're going to be better. And that's why I look at these guys and have hope. And I have so much hope, because I think now is a watershed moment in our world that people are going to stand up and unite against hatred, unite against racism, unite against social injustice. And I think that is something that we have to continue to educate and fight for. And these guys should be proud of themselves, but this is who they are. This is who their parents raised them to be. We just need to have our voice heard to keep spreading this.
Well put, Porter. Well put. Let's go back to basketball. Let's lighten it up a little bit more. You know, I look at the group that's joined us tonight, and no offense, Nick and Carson, but each one of the other guys could probably have a good debate about who had the most clutch moment down the stretch in the tournament. And not that you guys didn't contribute. I'm sure that it was definitely meaningful, but you know what
They all agree it was me.
But I think that, you know, when you look back, and we'll leave that debate for somebody else, when you look back at how special those few weeks were and how big you guys became. You guys became a national story, and it was more than just Sister Jean, although that helped a whole heck of a lot. When you look back, whether it's Dante with Chance the Rapper or Dre with Russell Westbrook, was there a moment that kind of typifies, or to you kind of symbolizes, just how famous you guys got so fast, and just how much fun it was to be the America's darlings for 3 weeks in March into April, because you guys just refused to lose and hit one big shot after another? Let's start with Dante.
For me, I guess I never really looked back and looked at one particular shot and said, like, man, that was the biggest, most clutch shot, because there was so many special moments, so many big moments that we had as a team. In critical situations, you know what I'm saying, down the stretch, not just in the tournament. We had big moments all throughout that season. You talked about the conference tournament, Marcus making big plays, Ben, Dre, Clay, like just all the way down the line. There were so many great moments. We all had each other's back, and we all came through in a lot of different ways. So I never really looked back You know what I'm saying? Like I said, which shot was, you know what I'm saying, the most critical. But, you know, just looking at, you know, like you said, in that quick amount of time, how big we became all across. And Coach tried his best. He tried his best to always preach, put the blinders on, you know, let's lock in. No outside noise, you know what I'm saying? We're going to stay within our locker room and focus on what we need to do. But it's like you in the hotel, you laying down watching TV, and we on TV no matter what channel we go to. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough. And obviously for a lot of us, it's like, dang, like we're really the talk of everything right now. You know what I'm saying? So although we did a good job, it was kind of hard to not see, you know what I'm saying, how crazy things were getting. So
I can't wait my turn. I'm just going to light this thing up and interject. And I know we're going to go around the horn, but like it literally true. We talked about this laser-like focus. And so Dante hits the shot against Miami. And after all the hoopla, we get back to the hotel and they had a special floor for us. And they had a room where we just ate. And I remember giving him that speech. We got to stay blinded. You know, we got 48 hours. You got to prepare for Tennessee. I walk into the meeting. They're all watching the Dante shot over the phone. Like, man, it was like they were at a party talking about. I'm like, well, that blinder speech went out the window. But I do say this: they did an unbelievable job. And people ask me all the time, how did you keep these guys focused? And it was their maturity level. We kind of said early, let's have a ton of fun with this. But when it's time to lock in, let's have a laser light. I remember every walkthrough in the hotel, every film session, everything was like absolutely on point. But then they had fun. They were tons of fun when they were not in a meeting and all that. And that's what made the journey so much funner. But I had to interject. I'll never forget that. It was like 12 of you looking at the phone right after that blinder speech in the meal.
How about you, Dre? You were off from my perspective. You were pretty soft-spoken at the time, just kind of taking things in. But when you look back and reflect, what stands out either on or off the court about the wow moment when you realize just how special this group was?
I'd say during the whole season for the group, I'd say just us like mixing in with each other and staying like on the same path. Like we all wanted the same goal, so we all worked just as hard to achieve that. So just seeing that every day, everybody putting in the work and everybody wanting to achieve the same thing, that showed me that we had a good group of guys. We had something special. But as far as the whole tournament, just win after win, I'd say like just our resilient. I couldn't even say that word. Just how resilient we were. My bad. Just how resilient we were game after game. Just, you know, it inspires you to keep pushing. So I know they'll fight for me, so I'll fight for them. And that happened game after game.
And you did meet Russell Westbrook at the hotel?
Yes, sir, I did.
What was that like? And then how did that come about?
It was cool. I think Darius, he saw him first or whatnot. Well, we heard that they were in the hotel, so as they were coming in or whatnot, we just saw them. I wanted to see Paul George because that's my favorite player, but Russell Westbrook was nice. He was cool. We took a picture.
I'll interject there too. So they had one floor in San Antonio, and we had another floor, and that kind of showed how big we were. I'll never forget when we went in, and those guys were there, and everyone ran towards our players, towards these guys, and I'm like, that kind of symbolized how big it was. There's only 3 people that sprinted towards the Thunder, and their names were Ben Moser, Jake Moser, and Max Moser. Those 3 like sprinted towards the Thunder because they hang with these guys all the time. But I'll say this about Dre, and you listen to what Dante said and all these guys, it was what made the special. So they're always giving each other credit. And they're always like, Dante, no one says it's a big shot. But I'll say something about Dre. And everybody on this panel, everybody knew how good Dre was. And you can only start 5 guys. And we loved having a scoring punch on there. And it takes a special person to that is that good to accept that. And I talked to Dre openly about this. And I know Dre, it sucks. You know, so he's like, Coach, I'm good. And he kept on saying that. And he'd come in and do what he did. And I look back at what point of the season when you thought you were going to be really good is when Clay went out, first half of Florida. We continued on to beat Florida. Dre was a beast. We beat Florida. And I remember looking around going, we're pretty good. But it was that willingness is one sign of him not starting a big deal. When everyone on this panel, everyone was like, man, Dre, everyone knew how good Dre was.
Ben,
That
you
game
always
was
seem a
crazy.
little bit unflappable, kind of the guy who was a steady, senior on that group. Was that the case, or inside where you're like, wow, I can't believe this is happening to us?
Man, I mean, it's hard. It's hard not to, kind of. I felt like I was in awe of what was happening. But I'll echo what they said. I think that we had so many shoulders to hold this on. It's not easy, but we all carried it together, and I think that was a major key for us to be able to stay focused and be able to perform, because it wasn't like someone had all the pressure on them. It was a balanced and a complete team effort in the most textbook way. I think a funny story for me was in San Antonio. We were in the hotel, and it was like a late afternoon. I think our tip off was like at like 5 something, and I remember just we had our walk through or whatever in the morning. We eat, and then it's like we have our period of time where it's just rest and get ready, get focused for the game. And so I'm like, all right, I really don't want to watch TV. I'm not going to watch Sports Center or anything. Like, I'm going to try to just like clear my head and just get focused. And I remember we had an amazing hotel like right on the river in San Antonio. And of course I just hear chanting, like all these Loyola fans down like on the river on these boats, and they're just going across, and they're louder than and there's other fans chanting back at them, but they're louder than everybody else. And so like I have to go out there, and I'm just like looking over my balcony, and I see all these Loyola fans everywhere, just like flooded the place. And I was like, man, this is like surreal. This is completely surreal. We're here in San Antonio for the Final Four, and we got a fan. We had like, they came to everything. They flooded every arena, every hotel, and the energy they had. And it was just, I felt like, I was like, man, this must be like what it feels like to be the Beatles. I don't know. And so it was just stuff like that. Just, it felt like it became bigger than like larger than life. And it took on its own energy. And I think people were so, wrapped up in the story that we had such a great storyline, and it just struck so many chords with different people being the underdog, the Cinderella story, all that. And that was one of those moments where I kind of was just like, this is like, here we are, like this, we're here.
Marcus, how about you? What do you remember most about that 15 minutes of fame, and how they seem to have lasted a long, long time?
Yeah, when I guess like just when you're in the moment, you embrace it in that moment, and you don't realize how quick it went. And like during that time, I was like, man, I hope this never ends, because like you're just enjoying it so much, and everybody was just having so much fun, and like you just really embrace it, and you embrace like the whole season, and you start thinking about all the hard times you went through to get to this point. And and like during like the national anthem, like I just like sit there and just like think about all the times, even like growing up, just thinking about dreaming about being in this position, in this point of my college basketball career. And then you just, yeah, like I said, you start thinking about the times you went through in the season, all the hard patches, going through the boot camp with coach, and how that even brought us more together. And I remember seeing a video not too long ago of the Loyola social media put out of us talking about how our goal was to make it to March Madness, and how we all had that in our mind, and how we wanted to be a really good team. And it's just those moments that you think about the most. Not even, I mean, obviously the Final Four was the icing on the cake and everything, but it's just, when you think about those moments are the best to me, for sure. And I'll never forget, even off the court, but we won't talk too much about that. But even like off the court, just how much fun we had together, and how that brought us together more together on the court as well. And but I say, you know, best times were, I guess, I remember after the Nevada game, I was done talking to some announcer. I guess he wanted to have like a interview with me, and I get Chris Webber, I think, was doing our broadcast, and he came up to me. He was like, "Man, you're a big time player. Keep it up. I'll be following you." And I was just like, man, like a Hall of Fame person like that, you know, coming up to me and telling me this, it was crazy. I was just I don't know, in a way, kind of starstruck and realizing like, yo, this is us. Like, this is really happening. And I know a lot of these guys don't think of us. They'll tell you the same as I will. We don't think that we were a Cinderella story, but you know, that's what people love. They love a Cinderella story. They love the underdog story. But what we tell you is that we thought we could beat anybody. Honestly, like, you put us against any team in the country, and we're going to prepare the hardest. We have the best coaches to help us prepare for any team, and have our mind focused on this game and this game only. We're not worried about the next game, or we weren't worried about beating Tennessee after playing Miami, or we're going to win this game, so let's worry about this game.
Well,
It
Mark,
was just like one game at a time mentality. And yeah, I just, you know, those are the moments that you just really enjoy the most for me.
people like the entire story, Cinderella or whatever you want to call it, but they liked it because you guys all had such great individual stories. And that was the best part, that everybody had a huge story to tell. Clayton, were your greatest moments, as much as you had so many clutch down the stretch, on or off the court, when you think about the most indelible memories from that tournament run?
I mean, I had a lot of good memories on and off the court during that time, but obviously my favorite, the parts that I cherished the most were being off the court with the guys. Like, the off the court stuff was all my favorite stuff. That's the stuff that I remember the most. I think all of us, we agree that, like, the whole year we believed that we were going to be good. Like, we beat Florida at the beginning of the year. I think me and Ben were hurt during that time. It was like, you know, we're gonna be something special when we're back to full strength. And we were just kind of locked in, like Coach said, laser-like focus the whole season. So in that aspect, I also liked what Ben said. You know, nobody shouldered the burden of, nobody felt extra pressure, or like, I have to play really good in order for us to win. None of us ever felt that way, because we had so many different guys that could step up and make plays. Obviously, the most obvious examples are all of us having a big game during the tournament, with Dante hitting his shot, me hitting my shot, Marcus hitting his shot, then Ben going off. Obviously, Carson was dancing his ass off over there on the sideline. So was Nick. But Dre was super consistent and was a bucket off the bench. So those are my thoughts on that. But if the question is like, when did we feel like the cool moments of how big time we were for our 15 little minutes? Some of the ones that come to mind are, I mean, I know all of us remember when we first got back. I don't even remember which one it was, but when we got back and we were driving back from the airport, and they had Go Loyola and the skyscrapers, the tops of the buildings had the maroon and gold. You look to your right on Lakeshore, and the Ferris wheel on Navy Pier had a Loyola logo in the middle of it. So all that stuff, super cool. I remember we went to the Cubs game when Ben threw out the first pitch, and we were down on the field. Like, that was all super cool. I remember we were sitting down the third baseline, and too many people kept coming up to us, like down on the third baseline. So like, people would be standing up, like a ton of people would be standing up in our area, wanting to talk to us or a picture or whatever. And then they had to come get security, because the fans were getting mad because they couldn't see the game. So they told the security guard they had to bring a security guard over and not let people down to our seats. That was, I mean, a cool moment. And then I know Ben, I was surprised Ben didn't tell the story, but when we had our interview before the Final Four with like the whole CBS crew, And when we were talking to Jim Nance and all those guys, Grant Hill, all those guys, and in the middle of the conversation, like we were just in this casual, we were all sitting down, we were all in there, and in the middle of it, Jim Nance said a tradition unlike any other during while we were all talking. And me and Ben just immediately looked right at each other. We were like, what did he just say? Like, no way we just heard him say that in person. Because obviously we both are golf. We like to play golf, and hearing him do the Masters commercial.
Ben, you made him record it again, didn't you?
Yeah.
And on top of that, he also was wearing the like. They gotta be like personal editions, but they were these he had these loafers on and these Masters socks with the the Augusta logo on there, and it was just so like perfect. Like he said that, we looked at each other, he was wearing the Masters socks, and so at the end of that conversation, they were like, getting information and like talking to all of us so they would have stuff for the game. And at the end, I like had to go up to him. I was like, totally fanboying. I was like, can you do the tradition unlike any other? And I had him on camera, and he did it for me, and it was awesome. It's one of my favorite videos to this day. I have it on my phone. I'll keep that forever.
That's awesome. Carson?
Well, I know they got something from Drake, something from Chance too. Clay couldn't go anywhere. Ben couldn't go anywhere. Mark was blowing up, Instagram famous. Dre was the most famous man in Texas.
Yes,
the biggest moment for me, we're at our open practice in San Antonio, and I see my childhood hero on the sideline, Wally Zerbiak, the one and only. And I went up to him. I shook his hand and I said, "Mr. Zerbiak, I'll be honest with you. I'm probably not going to be in your media packet, but I just want you to know that I'm your biggest fan, and I have 4 of your jerseys at my parents' place right now." And he said, and this is when I knew I made it big time, because Wally said, "Yeah, I knew there was a Minnesota guy in the Final Four." And at that point, I was I couldn't have been any happier.
That's
Wally
great.
Zerbiak, the one-time All-Star, favorite player growing up. That's when I knew I made it big.
How about you, Nick?
I mean, there's so many stories and stuff, but for me, like, really when it kind of all hit me and where we were was during our national anthem on that Final Four stage. I mean, I know all these guys remember that, but for me, I mean, these guys brought me along for a ride of a lifetime, which I never would have thought would have happened. And, just kind of like looking out into the crowd of 80,000 people and you see nothing but camera lights, and then in front of you, all of a sudden, we had no idea this was going to happen, but they put like the projector screen on the court, and you could see all these crazy like graphics going around, and it was just like really peaceful, really beautiful, and you kind of were able to see, all the people that were there to like watch really, what we were as Cinderella's story, watch us play, and it was just kind of I know a lot of us teared up during that time. Just because it was so beautiful to see, like, this was the stage that we made it to. And I know Marcus mentioned, the depths of boot camp that we went through early in the summer and stuff. And just to kind of see that this team had made it, our potential up to that stage was just that for me is the best memory that I have from the Final Four, and just crazy remembering all those emotions.
Porter, it's so many moments and so many memories, I'm sure difficult to identify just one or a couple, but when a coach gets to a Final Four, that's a milestone, and that's something that obviously nobody can ever take away from you. It's going to be part of your legacy. But as you hear these guys talk, what are some of the images or memories that go through your mind?
I'm going to probably shotgun like 15, but when you say legacy encompasses a lot of people, and it's these guys are the legacy. The legacy is the type of people we brought into Loyola. The legacy is the type of people we won with, and that's what I love. And it's unequivocally the journey with these guys and the coaches that I had and the families that we had, and the people of Loyola, fans and everybody. I love when Loyola people comes back and say, I'm the class of '86, and I haven't got back together with my I love that connection. Here's one. I love, we beat Illinois State. We beat Illinois State and we celebrated on the floor for like an hour, cut down the nets. We made it back to the locker room. We're all huddling and finally back there, and they were waiting for us to get the press conference. Then Dante did what he always does. He huddled up and said, "We ain't going." You know, he gave his little thing, and then we were walking to the locker room, and I was just sitting there, and you're just taking a breath as you're walking to the press conference. And I'll never forget this. You Ben and Clay don't even probably remember this, but like I'm standing behind those two, and Dante was in front. I think it was Dre and maybe Crut, and Ben and Clay had Ben had his arm around Clay, and it looked like he was giving him noogies or something like 2 5-year-olds would do. And he's like, "Can you believe we're going to the NCAA tournament?" And they were like 2 little kids, and it was just so raw. It was just so raw and of excitement. And then I remember looking at the different times we celebrated with the team, the different, the press conference, looking down at these guys and what kind of people they are. And I remember, how about in Dallas, more on a lighter side? Remember we get to Dallas and their whole time they're explaining, oh, you're going to have a police escort to your practice. And once you get to the practice, you have a certain amount of time. Like, this is what time you're going to start and what's time. So we're waiting there. And do you guys remember what happened?
Yeah, you had a hot head, Coach. That's
the police didn't show up the first time. So the police didn't show up. Now I'm fuming because we got caught in traffic. We got lost. The bus driver got lost. So we pull up and we had to go to the press first. And I'm fuming. And we get to the press conference. We sit down. And the first thing you know is you always hear coaches say, I'm really proud of how my players are handling and mature. Clayton Custer goes, I thought Coach Moser was really mature on how he handled it, not having and I'm going, this is crazy. My point guard is telling me I'm mature. And, hey, next game we had like a 20-cop entourage leading us to the Tennessee game. But I also look at the families. I remember that video of after we beat Kansas State. And as a coach, I've always been that person that's watched the Elite Eight game, and watching the confetti coming down. And when the horn went off, when these guys, we were hugging each other, and then they all ran over to the families. And then I went and hugged my wife, and they're hugging their families. And to see, because so many people are involved. So many people were invested in who these young men were. The parents, the people at Loyola. And then to get up on that stage and have that maroon and yellow confetti coming down on us. And literally, I remember we had those Final Four hats. And remember, everyone just looking at each other. We're going to the Final Four. Like, I just think there was just so much joy of how much we invested in each other. And I love coming back to the hotel after a win, after amazing hoopla. Like, you had to be on. I mean, it was press here, press there, 15,000, 18, 20,000 fans everywhere you went. And then we kind of got into our room where we ate. Remember the meal? And it was just us. And everyone just kind of took a breath. And then all of a sudden, just the laughter and the joy. Wouldn't you guys love to have another pregame meal together? And
yes.
Wouldn't you love to have another postgame meal together? And I'm always telling you guys that, like, you guys, it goes by like this. Enjoy these moments. And those moments were so big, but unequivocally the journey of the people.
Okay, we're going to try to wrap up about 6:45. So one more question. I want each of you to give a stab at an answer, and we'll get through everybody. But when somebody asks you, and you used to reflect, and this is a night of looking back and a lot of fun, but how did this group, basically the core guys, how did this team, how did that season change Loyola basketball or change Loyola University? How would you answer that question? Let's start with Dante.
I think the biggest, obviously, when the program can get that amount of attention and have that success going forward, I think it'll always have it'll be a great recruiting pitch. It'll be something that, when you bring up that name, everybody's mind is gonna go right to that, and that season we had. And for me and a lot of different guys, I think when you're in that recruiting process, I think something that I think about the most is that people need to understand that it's not always about going to the big name schools. You know what I'm saying? It's not always about that. I think it's most important that you can find a family-like atmosphere, somewhere that fits you and somewhere you're gonna learn, and you can maximize that and reach your potential that way. I think that's the biggest thing that I think about, especially for the next generation and kids coming up making those decisions. I think a lot of kids should really see what we did, see the group of guys we did, and understand the success. There's more than one way to it, and it doesn't always come with picking those big name schools. You know what I'm saying? Kind of writing your own story and doing it the right way, as Coach Porter did. So,
Dre?
Just adding on to what Dante said, I say find the right culture. Like that's what we preached about, culture, and that's what held us together. So was it like from basketball to off the court, like we had a good culture with each other. So as far as recruiting, you would want to bring somebody in that fits that can mix and match with the guys, and then that can push each other also. So just bringing that competitive nature plus, how do I put it? Plus well behaved. I wouldn't say well behaved, but like just everybody matching it.
I can say well behaved. I'll say it.
Oh, okay. Well, but well rounded. Like everybody just well rounded. Like they do everything together and have a nice culture.
Carson?
Yeah, I mean, culture that Dre and Dante spoke to, obviously I spent the 1 year at Loyola, and I was only enveloped in the culture for 1 year. But now that, since that run has happened, that culture that was really kind of kept almost secret inside our locker room is now it's a nationally known thing that, coach is going to bring the right guys in, but, they're going to be really good basketball players, but he's going to bring really good guys in that they're going to do things the right way, and they're going to be about a team, about a university, and about a city. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I know it might sound like everyone's repeating themselves, but I mean, the one thing to me that season really changed for Loyola was just that it solidified absolutely everything that Coach was saying. We all.
You muted.
Mute.
Bro.
I think it's just a connection for him, honestly.
All right, let's go. Nick, you back?
Oh, there we go.
Sorry, it froze. Yeah, I know that everyone's kind of said it, but just the culture of everything from the season. It really, I feel like, solidified everything that Coach was saying. We took everything that Coach was saying and preached it ourselves like it was our own Bible about what we were doing on and off the court. And I think it really just kind of solidified the way that if you got the right group of people who follow that mindset, that you guys can achieve anything, like going to a Final Four, or playing on Monday, or whatever it is, whether it's outside of basketball or not. But it just solidified exactly what our culture at Loyola is about, and really kind of gave us a book on how to approach everything from basketball to life.
Marcus?
Yes. I mean, I would hope our season was something that kids look at and see that these group of guys change the way you perceive which school you want to go to. And I mean, I hope our season, the Final Four season, has impacted the future generation of recruits trying to pick a school and hopefully choosing Loyola and their decision. And that's one thing that I was big on. I wanted to change the school and help make it better and help make it a better program. And I was just grateful to be a part of that. And yeah, just the way the way we went about it, and every single way and fashion of just our team, and how you don't have to have the tallest players with the highest rating star recruit out there. You find a school that is right for you. You find a school that you have a great relationship with the coach. And I've seen stuff happen, with kids that just want to go to the school because of the name, and it's not because of that. You want to find the right school that's for you and that fits you in the way that you play. And like Dante said, you could write your own story, and that's exactly what we did. We didn't know that we were going to go to the Final Four. That wasn't on our minds. We came together as a group, and we loved each other. We did everything together, and we got there eventually, like game after game. And that was just the way we were taught, and that's just the way we did things. And I just hope that it goes to show that not even for our school. I mean, I hope our school gets the best recruits out just from what we did, obviously, because I want our school to be great. But it's not even that. Just for even other schools, like, or even kids that want to pick other schools, it's not the name of the school. It's being finding the right fit. And I'll tell this one quick story. When I was on my visit to Loyola, and Coach always, he brings us to his house, and he has all the team over, and just having some fun time and getting together and eating some good food, that they cook up. And I remember just sitting downstairs playing video games with some of the guys that was there at the time. And this was before the Final Four season. This was the season before, when I had to sit out. And I was just sitting there, and I was playing a game, and I guess Coach came down because he wanted to do something, and he was like, "Oh, Marcus, I didn't even notice you. I thought you were part of the team already."
That was on your recruiting visit.
Yes, that was on my recruiting visit, and it just like hit me like, man, I'm already getting along so well with these guys that I just met, and it just hit me in the head like, this is the school for me. This is what I want to be part of. I want to be part of a family, and that's when I decided to come here.
Clayton, I imagine you look at similar situation experience leaving Iowa State for Loyola as one of the best decisions you've ever made.
Absolutely. First off, that was a good line, Coach. That was a good recruiting line to tell.
Hey, I'm going to steal that. That's good.
No, I'm just kidding. But I think obviously we kind of created the culture that Coach was trying to build. So I think that was a really cool thing for us. But I think one of the cool things when I look back at it, and the things that I'm most proud of, is that we changed the dynamic of the university completely. When I first got there, and I know when all these other guys first got there, I mean, there were like 500 people at the games. That you were walking around the campus, and you didn't see one Loyola sweatshirt, you didn't see one Loyola t-shirt. You saw people wearing Michigan sweatshirts. You saw people wearing Villanova sweatshirts. You saw people wearing DePaul stuff. Like that's what our day-to-day was when we'd walk to class and we'd do all that stuff. So I think just bringing the life back, bringing the spirit back, the alumni got back involved, and now they're coming to the games and all that stuff. And I remember back when, like, after we had gone to the Final Four, and I was technically – Marcus was the same way, but we were seniors and we graduated. And I remember, like, I had a couple people, not a lot of people, but there were a couple people saying, like, like, wouldn't it have been great to go out with that Final Four run, like, to go out that way? And in my head, I thought that was the craziest thing in the world. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I can't wait to go back one more year. We created this livelihood. We created this spirit. And our games are going to be packed this year. We're going to pack the place every single night. And we worked for that. And me and Marcus were lucky enough to get to live that the next year and play in front of packed houses and do all that stuff, which all these guys helped us build that. But I just felt lucky for that. And I think it's cool that we kind of brought that excitement back to the university.
So Ben, it went just the way you told Clay it would when he came to Loyola, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
exactly the same.
So this is the time where I'll finally tell the story of Clay's recruiting visit. No, never. But I will say, like, I mean, everyone has talked about, the family and the culture and everything that's important at Loyola and what makes it so special and what the Final Four run did, I think, is just it put a spotlight on a program, and it showed that, kind of like what Coach said earlier, it's amazing what you can do when you have some amazing people around working together collectively towards one goal and unselfishly. And, I think that's the really cool thing, that it showed, Loyola is such a special place. We have such a special program, and things are just trending upwards. And I have so much pride coming from Loyola, and I can't wait to see where the program goes from here. And we're all lucky to still have these close relationships with each other. And it's like Clay was saying, college kids, they want to have pride in their school. They might not realize they went to, maybe they didn't go to Loyola because the athletic programs, like some kids go to an SEC school because they want to tailgate football games and all that. But, once they find out how much it enhances the, college experience, having pride in your school, having a team to follow and cheer for, coming together as a university, that's what makes college super fun. And I think that, that kind of changed the experience at Loyola. And it also brought so much pride to alumni from all the way back to the 90s, to the 80s, the 70s. I talked to so many people who, went to Loyola and got back together with some of their friends they hadn't seen in so long, and they had so much pride and they were so proud because, no one had heard of Loyola before. They said now they could go in. My dentist went to Loyola. I came back and he was like, yeah, now I get to brag about being a Loyola Chicago grad and stuff like that. It shows you the wide reach that, the run had. And I'm just proud to be a part of it. And I can't wait to see where the program goes from here.
Last word, Coach.
You look back on, Clay said when he got there was 500 people. When I got there, that'd have been considered a sellout. So I'd be remiss without mentioning the guys before these guys. Like my first class, London Dukubu, Christian Thomas, Joe Crispin. And then I think about Milton Doyle. Chicago hadn't had a Chicago Public League player for 12, 13 years. And Milton, who had a high reputation, came. And he made it cool for guys like Dante, other kids, Lucas, Marquise in the city to come. And then I look at when Joe and those guys, Christian, were seniors, Ben and Dante were freshmen, and we won the CBI. And I know that pales in comparison, but it started to show you what things were coming. And you pour into people, these young guys. And then you look at now when those guys were seniors, then all of a sudden Crut and Lucas were freshmen. And now you see those Crut and Lucas are freshmen, and they're pouring into people. And I read a great book. It's called The Legacy. It's about the New Zealand rugby team. And they talk about when you come into a really championship program, when the people put onto their jersey, when they leave and they take their jersey off, do they leave the jersey in a better place? And I look back on the beginning of our journey, those guys, Christian and Milton, they left the jersey in a better place. I look at the screen right here. They left the jersey in a better place. And it's their job to keep pouring into people who are wearing that jersey. So it can come on, because Clayton's right. This is becoming a brand. The brand was all academics. And now people know it for doing both the sports, not only our sport, the soccers, the volleyballs are at championship levels. And this is what is cool about Loyola right now and what it stands for. But these guys left the jersey in a better place. And they're pouring into the guys that are still there, and the guys like Krutwigs and Lucas. And those guys are going to pour into the younger guys like Marquise Kennedy and Baylor Hebb and those younger guys. And it's going to keep going. And just proud of how that is changed, of what the brand means and what it means to them.
Thanks, Porter. Thank you, everybody. It was a privilege to talk to you all. It was a fun conversation. This is all the time that we have for Porter's Mailbag. Thank you to the season ticket holders, the donors, all of the boosters, the Loyola family that checked us out and tuned in and enjoyed, hopefully, the conversation. Stay safe, stay well. We will see you at the next Porter's Mailbag. I don't know if we'll have everybody from all around the world chiming in, but it will be worthwhile. And guys, thank you very much for a fun evening, and go Ramblers.
Thanks for hosting, David.
Go Ramblers.